Greetings everyone, welcome back to the channel. Michael here, and this week I want to talk about two things that you can do while shooting digital that will help you be a more present and intentional photographer. Okay, so despite the obvious, what is different between these two cameras? Obviously, one is digital and one is film. But the big difference, at least in my mind, really comes down to how these look on the back. If you look at the back of this camera, we have a screen. If you look at the back of this camera, we have nothing. This is the ideal way of shooting for me. As someone who shoots both film and digital, I find this concept of not having something to chimp on or to look at the screen afterwards to be such a relief. And in fact, some of my most immersive photography has been just rolling through frames, knowing or sometimes not knowing what's going to come out. I wish there were more digital cameras with this option. Now, of course, there is the Leica M-D series of cameras, which I looked at getting, but with everything Leica, you pay for a premium for less. And so this particular week, and actually more recently in this past month or so, I've been doing something with this camera where I've managed to sort of turn the screen off altogether with the hope of maybe not chimping and being more present. And I've also changed one other setting with this camera and with some of my other digital cameras to have a more present, intentional, digital type experience. So this is my beloved Leica M240. I've talked about this camera quite a bit, extensively with different lenses and different things. This really brought me back into photography, and the simplicity of this camera is what I love so much about it. But before I purchased this camera, I was actually thinking about getting the M-D version, which is the one that doesn't have a screen on the back. It basically just has a knob where you change the ISO and everything else is done through there. It's actually a version of the M262, and they have one for the M11, and there was one that came before that called the M60. And basically it was a screenless model of a digital camera. And so you don't actually see the images until you get them back onto your computer when you pop the SD card out. But I chose not to get that one, partially because there was a premium for less features. And then also, to be honest, as anyone who's ever shot digital, I was a little afraid that I might actually need a menu from time to time, or I might actually need a screen to check my images. And to be honest, I was a little afraid of my own capabilities. But sometimes I wish that I had a screen-free solution because honestly, having a screen is one of those things that I find to be a distraction, especially when I'm in the moment, or especially when I'm with my kids, or when I'm just in a immersive situation. The last thing I want to do is look at a screen. And you probably feel the same way too, right? Like we have phones and they're always vying for our attention. And likewise, these little LCD displays, when you see an image come up on it, you naturally want to look at it. Now, the Leica M240 and all of the Leicas for that matter have a much more scaled back approach to displays. It doesn't usually give you as much information unless you want it to. But there's one little thing that I've done to this camera that has been a game changer. And then a second thing that I think has also kind of helped assist in this process of making me more present, and not only making me more present, but also making me feel a little more connected to the art of photography. And that first thing is very simple, and you can do it on any digital camera. It's turning off the image review. So every time you use a digital camera, by default, there is this little setting on your digital camera called image review. It has different names on different systems. It looks different ways. But what it does is when you take a picture, it will automatically display that picture on your screen. It'll hold it there for 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 seconds, however long it's set up to. And I have found that 9 times out of 10, if I take a picture and it shows up on the image review, whether I want to or not, I will stop to look at it. Now, this is problematic because as someone who is a dad of 4, and I'm always conscious of my presence around my kids and just in general in life, I have missed moments because I've been looking at the display on this. And I don't do that when I'm on film. When I'm on film, I feel more connected to the world around me. I'm looking through the viewfinder and I'm seeing those moments, and you see that initial shutter click, or if you're on a rangefinder, it just moves right on. And then after that, you're immediately in the scene. I don't feel the same way with digital. Every time that image comes up, it immediately it sort of pulls my attention away, and I find myself chimping as much as I don't want to. I find myself constantly looking. And something that I've done recently that I think has just helped me be a more present person as a photographer, and then also as a dad and as just a person in general, I've turned the image review off. And now what it does is this. The camera is on. If I take the image, that's what it does. Nothing. It does absolutely nothing. It's a black screen. And so then I have to actually hit play to pull up the image that it just took. And I found that one step alone has made it so much easier for me to just stay immersed in the scene, and it feels a little more filmic. It feels a little more analog. You can do that on any camera. In fact, I've also done it here on this Leica SL. And so when I take an image, and I'll pull it up and show you, this has the LCD on. If I take an image, it just continues. Now, this camera and other modern mirrorless cameras also have another beautiful feature. Some of them have this little button where you can actually turn the LCD off altogether, and you can only see through the viewfinder. And when I take an image, nothing comes up. It's just like shooting film. It's like having a blank back screen, right? Now, there are certain uses where having the ability to image review immediately is certainly handy. If you're on like a paid photo shoot and you need to make sure that you're getting those images straight out of the gate, it certainly matters. But if you're just immersed in the scene and you're trying to document something, it's so much nicer to not have that image automatically pop up, and you can just be immersed and you can go back to looking at them later. Now, I mentioned that I had a second tip that I think goes along with the first tip for helping me be a little more present in the current moment when I'm photographing. And that second one is setting my settings to shoot with RAW plus JPEG, and having the JPEG be in monochrome. So when I'm shooting, I have set my JPEGs to be in black and white, and I've set my camera to capture both the RAW file and the black and white file. And what this does is it captures two images simultaneously. It captures a RAW file, which retains all of the color data. I can put it in Lightroom. I can play with the file as much as I want. And it captures a JPEG image that has stripped all of the color data and given me a black and white image. And here's why I think that's actually helped me be more present, and it's helped me be a better photographer. Two reasons actually for that. First, because it's stripped all of that information, all of that color information, all you see is the contrast and the light and the shadows and the black and white image. So if I choose to hit play, and if I choose to look at my image, I can hit play and it will only show me the black and white image that I've taken, which right now I only have two on the card, and embarrassingly, it's a out of focus picture of myself. Nevertheless, it will only show me the black and white image and not the color image. And so I can't really get a full idea of what I've shot until after I get it back on the computer, which internally, for me at least, sort of turns me off from the idea of like sitting there and reviewing images on my camera, which is why it makes me more present. At the same time, having a black and white file and a color file, I can put those two together and put them side by side and really see something different that I wouldn't have seen had I just shot color alone. So the way I do it is I take all of my black and white images and I just dump them in a folder for the month and the year. And what this has done for me is I can put all of those just JPEGs, and if I want to share them, I will, and I will do that in a moment. And then I put all my DNG files straight into Lightroom. And my new process for editing my images is I actually look at the black and white images first, and I make my selects based off of that. If the image is kind of flat or not dynamic or doesn't look very good as a black and white image, there's a good chance it probably won't look very good as a color image either. And so I'll review my images in black and white, and then I'll look at the color images if I want to edit them. And I've actually learned something in this process. probably 50% of the time, I actually prefer the black and white image. And it's not because I prefer black and white. It's just, I like how the light and the contrast and how everything has come together. And I found that some of the images that I typically would gloss over and just move past in color, I'm seeing again fresh in black and white. And I actually have found that I prefer them. What I mean is images that are not the sharpest, or maybe there's motion blur, or maybe the light's a little wonky or it's weird, or maybe someone's out of focus, and whether intentionally or unintentionally, they just have new life when they're in black and white. And so I've actually found separating those, putting all of my black and whites in a folder based on month, and then putting those other images into my Lightroom, it's kind of given me a new perspective on what to edit as a photographer, what I actually want to edit. And then also too, it's given me all these black and white images just straight out of the gate that I don't have to edit, that I can refer to or I can share, which is what I'm going to do right now. So what you're about to see are some images that I've taken on a variety of cameras that are all shot the same way. I've turned the screen off and I've been shooting in black and white with JPEGs and retaining the raw files. And what you're going to see is just the JPEGs that are straight out of camera, black and white. And no surprise, the majority of them are from the Leica M240 because, let's be honest, this is still my favorite camera. So take a look at these images. What do you think of that? Are you going to try doing this as well too? Maybe doing your camera in black and white JPEGs and color raw files, maybe turning the screen off so it feels a little more present. Do you think that would help you as a photographer? For me, I found this immensely helpful. Just as I'm photographing my kids and my family, I'm more in the moment. I'm less looking at a screen and I'm more looking at what is right in front of me. And I find that to be so helpful. And then also seeing those new images in black and white is almost like revisiting things that I had forgotten. And having two different files that I can do what I want with is really quite wonderful. And I would encourage anybody who's looking for a new way of shooting to maybe adopt those two practices, because I think they're truly helpful. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoy it, like and subscribe. As always, it is so helpful. We crossed the 1,000 follower mark. I can't even believe that. I'm so, right around my birthday, it went over 1,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much. That's so kind. Thank you all for your comments and your thoughts. Let me know how you feel about these two tips. Do you do something like this already in your practice? And if not, what would you do instead to become a more present photographer? Thanks for watching. Go in peace, and I'll see you next time.